call this Cooking to Thrive in the 21st Century because this series focuses on creating food that promotes health on both an individual and an environmental scale. We're learning master recipes designed to work with whatever you have on hand, with plenty of local and plant-based whole food ingredients. Cooking this way generates vitality and reduces environmental impacts. Flexibility in the kitchen unlocks endless flavor opportunities and makes eating a nutritionally balanced, eco-friendly food fun and intuitive. This series is sponsored by Cornell Cooperative Extension Ulster County and the Ellenville Rural Regional Healthcare Network and Stick to Local Studios. I'm Maria Reidelbach. Who are you?
Madalyn Warren.
Oh.
Hello. Thanks,
Okay.
Maria. I love your home. Thanks for inviting me here to High Falls.
Madalyn Warren is an amazing person. With her mother, kimchee, she owns and operates Eats Brandt's Farms in Roxbury, as well as Kimchee Harvest Kitchen, which makes amazing flavors of kimchi. Carrie Paul is my colleague at Cornell Cooperative Extension. She runs a program called WRAP. It's free for caregiving families raising a friend's or family's children. It's a wonderful program. It really helps people who are raising families who aren't necessarily their own families. Lots of great activities for kids. Pickle it. Pickle ingredients include vegetables, seasonings, and salt, and that is it. You need very little equipment. You need a jar, you need a knife, you need a spoon, and you need a refrigerator eventually, not right away. First, you wash and prep the vegetables. Then you fill the jars, leaving some space at the top. You make a brine out of salt and water. And then you pour the brine over the vegetables and you weight them so that they are below the surface of the brine. That's really important. We'll talk about that later. And there are different ways you can weight them. We'll also talk about pickling microbes later, but pickling microbes do amazing things. They keep the vitamin C, they preserve it, and they preserve the plant matter and all the fiber. But then they also develop B vitamins, and they develop all of these delicious aromatic flavors that you know from eating delicious pickles. This is Madalyn, and we're going to make some pickles. I brought a bunch of produce out of my fridge and out of my garden, and I've got some herbs here, and Madalyn brought some things from her farm. And making pickles is really, really simple. You need to start with really fresh vegetables. You don't want to use the bruised ones. Those are for, you can cut those up and use them for freezing and compost the bruised parts. But for pickles, you want nice, fresh, vegetables that are good and whole. And you need some salt, and you want to kind of avoid iodized salt. You can use it in a pinch. Some water, and again, you want to avoid chlorinated water, but you can just do that by if you have chlorine in your water, you can put it out in a cup like this for a few hours and the chlorine will evaporate out. And then you need the vegetable, and you need a way to weight down the vegetables. So that's how simple it is. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make some traditional cabbage pickles. And Madalyn, you told me that cabbage is sort of foolproof.
Kind of. Yeah.
It's like one of the friendliest vegetables to pickle.
Yeah. I think a lot of microbes are already on the cabbage. Maybe something to do with the surface, the leaf.
Well, I got this cute little cabbage from the farmer's market. It's just the right size for me and my roommate. And I have a grater here. And I'm just going to go ahead and grate some of this. And I could also cut it into strips if I wanted to. It just depends on, this is really fun because you get to choose exactly the way that you want to make your pickles. So I'm going to go ahead and just...
something like this, when would you eat it? Within a week?
Oh, within a week?
Yeah.
I would think you could start eating it within a week. Yeah.
Because if I was making this and I wanted it in 6 months, I would not grade it.
Oh, because it would.
Because every surface, every cut it would just be so mushy in 6 months.
Because it's so small.
I would make. If I'm gonna eat this in 6 months, like if I'm storing it for winter, I would have much bigger stripes.
So you would cut it more like. Here, show me how you would cut it.
So I would have much bigger pieces, like 6 months.
Big chunks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because you imagine every cut line is where the pickling is gonna come in, because it's a living environment and things are eating in there, and so the bigger the pieces, the crunchier it'll be down the road. But if you're planning on eating it within a month, this is so beautiful. That's gonna be delicious.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna put this in here, and yes.
Hi, what is the difference between pickled cabbage and sauerkraut?
It's the same thing. This is sauerkraut. It's going to be sauerkraut. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. It's one of those things that I took for granted, but yeah, it's going to be sauerkraut. So I've got some cabbage in here. I probably put a little more in usually, but for the sake of this, I'm just going to let it sit like that. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to make some brine. I am showing y'all one way to make pickles. There are so many ways to make pickles. And Madalyn's going to show us another way. But there's a gazillion ways to make pickles. Yeah. And so I'm showing you the way that I learned, and I think it's a very easy way to make pickles.
Maria,
So,
somebody is asking, what is the difference between pickling and fermenting?
I use the terms interchangeably. Madalyn and I talked about that actually just a few minutes ago. And Madalyn differentiates because she uses pickle to describe a vinegar process,
where the preservation fermenting is using salt. Salt is the preserving agent, and so the salt is slowing the process of the breakdown of the vegetable, but then also promoting the beneficial microbes to flourish. Vinegar I think of as more as pickling. The vinegar is the preserving agent.
I see.
Yeah.
Right.
But I like how you use pickling as to preserve vegetables. Basically.
Preserve vegetables.
Preserving vegetables for later consumption using salt or vinegar.
Now, Madalyn just mentioned there quick pickles, which are made with vinegar, which is itself a fermented product, and fermented pickles. And they're pretty different. Quick pickles, if you're making them at home, they don't keep very long unless you actually, can them using a pressure canner or something. Right. But when you make fermented pickles, they can last quite a long time in your refrigerator.
Right.
So to make the brine, what I usually do is it's 3 tablespoons of salt in a quart of water. And first I dissolve the salt into a cup of hot water, all of it. And then I pour that into with the rest of the water. So I've got a quart of brine here. It's called brine. And
what's in the brine?
It's just salt.
Only salt.
Only salt. And I'm just going to pour it in here, leaving about an inch at the top. And I'm going to clean the cabbage from around the edge.
Maria, just to confirm, you said 3 tablespoons into a quart?
3 tablespoons into a quart. Now, that is not a hard and fast number. You can do a little more or a little less. If you do more, your pickle will take longer. And if you do less, it will pickle more quickly. But you definitely want to have salt. And then the really important thing that you have to be strict with about making pickles is you've got to have those vegetables under the surface of the brine, because that's what's protecting them from all kinds of wild microbes that want to come and eat your pickles, basically. And so one way to do it is to make a weight with a smaller bottle that'll fit inside. But another way to do it is to use a cabbage leaf, and you can just kind of fit it in here.
Oh, that's
It's
cool.
a little bit too big,
I've never seen that.
and you can kind of fit it in and push it in like this. And I'm not doing a good job here, but I think you can get the picture. You just push it in, and it kind of wedges in if you're using a jar with a little shoulder. And it'll keep all that vegetable matter under the surface of the brine. And then you'll want to cover it with either a loose lid, just, like that, because there's going to be some gases and pressure that build up. If you have the weighted bottle, the weighted jar, you can cover it with a cloth. And then you keep your eye on it, and you check it, check it after a day, check it after 2 days, after 3 days, and you'll be surprised at how quickly things start tasting really delicious. So that's just a very quick, simple, you'd want to add some garlic here, I think, and there's some herbs. Caraway, I think, might be traditional. Got some caraway seed here, but you can kind of jazz it up the way that you want it to, add the flavors that you like.
So what do you add here?
I would add garlic and caraway.
Garlic and caraway.
Yeah.
And do you put that in when you're boiling the brine?
No,
Or
I would just
put
add
it
it.
right
I would
in
just
with the
add it
fish?
right in here. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, and if you're using cabbage, don't forget the cabbage heart is really a treat.
Yes.
So either pickle it or just put a little salt on it and enjoy it as is. It's really delicious.
We only just recently discovered that we kept discarding the core.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and earlier this winter we ate it and we're like, whoa, this is really sweet and delicious.
Yeah,
So
right?
now we save the core, and instead of taking the time to chop it, we put all of the core into the food processor.
Oh, because you have a ton of course. Yeah.
So then it grinds it up to like that, and then we add it to the sauce, and it's become a really important addition to our sauce.
That's
is the
so
core.
interesting.
It's so good. I can't believe we kept throwing it away.
So when I was little, my mother would give me the core and tell me she would put a little salt on it and tell me it was a special treat.
It is.
So I grew up thinking this was the best part of the cabbage. So, yeah, it's a little freebie extra treat there that you get in the middle of your cabbage. So it's really that simple in its essence. And should I make a cucumber one, or would you like to make a cucumber?
We can do one together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't I be your assistant?
Okay, let's see if there's any questions. Should we see?
Yeah,
with that one?
Could you, Carrie, does anybody have any questions?
I do have one here. For pickling and fermenting small cucumbers or other vegetables, what's the difference in putting them in the jar whole versus cutting into parts?
Why don't you take this one?
Well, anytime you can leave a vegetable whole, I think we discussed it earlier, it has a chance of holding on to a more firm, crunchy texture. You're slicing it up, the smaller the pieces of the vegetable, you're increasing the chance of losing that texture, the crunchiness, as time goes by.
Now, you pointed out to me before the class
Yeah,
that vegetables that have a hard surface are a little bit more difficult to pickle.
they are a little bit trickier. They need more attention. There's some, like if you're ever trying to pickle green tomatoes, it's a very slick surface, and so that's a type of pickle you really have to keep your eye on, because yeast likes to form very quickly, and so we just constantly have to push the tomato in to combat that yeast that's forming. And yeast is not bad for us. It's just a little unappetizing. The the white film that floats at the
The
top.
white film, yeah, I have some of that.
It's not
I can show you
dangerous,
all.
but it's just very unappealing, and so we try to avoid that. And so in the beginning, with before the beneficial microbes can really dominate your pickling environment, you gotta keep fighting that yeast from trying to form at the top. And so things like tomato and even rhubarb, it requires a lot of a daily attention, whereas cabbage, no brainer. I mean, cabbage just within a day or two, it's just so nothing else can come in and live in that scene. Like cabbage, you make it, and it's kind of a sure thing. Cabbage.
So what's happening on a molecular level is that it's sealed off from the outer world, and the vegetables have microbiota that already live in them, just like we have microbiota that live inside us. Vegetables have microbiota, and once they're sealed off, that becomes more active. And it's called lactobacillus, and it's really a pickler's best friend.
So a couple questions, if you have a moment.
Sure.
Well, somebody was just asking, just simply, what is kimchi?
That is one of the questions I was going to ask Madalyn next. Perfect timing.
Kimchi is a traditional Korean food, a way to preserve summer harvest to eat and enjoy in the winter. But these days we eat kimchi breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's just fermented vegetable, and very similar to a sauerkraut, but we use a lot of garlic, ginger, black pepper, scallion. This is a Napa cabbage. This is the most popular type of kimchi. Main ingredient is Napa cabbage. I think the origin story of Napa is that it's a natural hybridization between turnip and bok choy.
Wow.
Parents
That's cool.
of Napa are turnip and bok choy. A long time ago, made Napa.
Now, I think of kimchi as having a lot of garlic and being hot.
It's tends to be pretty spicy, but it depends on your house. If your house does not like spicy, then you don't add so much chili, and in fact you don't even have to add the chili. There's a lot of flavor with the garlic and ginger. So I think some people have an issue with the capsaicin in the chili pepper. It's too much for their body, and so you can eliminate the chili. You don't have to put the chili in, and garlic and ginger. We've had requests to make kimchi with no garlic, and I don't know if that's possible. I mean, I'm a person who thinks that humans would not have survived as long as we have had without garlic. I mean, garlic has kept us alive. But yeah, kimchi is a very important dish in Korean cuisine, and it's become very popular because it is loaded with beneficial microbes. So people have more understanding about their microbiota and feeding it, and so kimchi is a real go-to for keeping a nice balance in the guts.
Well, let's see how you do it.
A couple more questions. Maria, is it necessary to boil the brine before pouring over the cabbage?
No.
So
No?
is the jar sterilized?
No, it's just clean. Just make sure everything's clean. Make sure your hands are clean. Everything should just be clean.
So we make
Just one more quick question. When we put the veggie into the mason jar with the weight on top of it, is it important to use a cloth to cover, or can you just screw the metal top back on?
Yeah, so you don't want the lid to be on tightly because there are gases produced, and so if you screwed the lid on tightly, your jar might start squirting out liquid or even maybe break. So you want to just leave it loose.
Thank you.
So I'm just chopping some cucumber now for a quick pickle. Like this is more like a cucumber salad. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So you get your cucumber sliced, then you put this in a bowl with a little salt, and then it starts to sweat a little bit. Are people cooking along?
Is anybody cooking along with us? Carrie, do you have any?
I got one person, Lisa Crafts, is cooking along.
Oh, Lisa Crafts, wonderful.
So we can. This is the bowl's a little small, but it's okay.
Want a bigger bowl?
Yeah, because we're gonna mix. We wanna mix.
Okay, here you go.
So then, how much cucumber is that? Like 2 cups?
Yeah, I would say
Okay,
maybe
2
2.5 cups.
And then, in our house, we never use one of these. My mom is always just pouring it into the hand and like that, and we're tasting it as we cook. It's important to taste as you cook to make sure it's something that you are going to enjoy. Okay, you have to trust your own taste. So how much salt is that roughly?
That's about
Jacob is
2
also making
teaspoons.
whole cucumbers along with all of you.
Salt.
Not
So
sure.
I'm
While
gonna
she
mix it a
gets
little
back to
bit.
us, do you remove the blossom end of the cucumber?
The blossom end. We were talking
Yeah, the
about that.
blossom end is what makes there's some chemical in there that then makes your pickle soft. So sometimes you don't know what the blossom end is, so you just cut both. Cut both ends.
So yeah,
Cucumber is cooking along. She's trying to do beets with ginger and lemon zest.
oh, that sounds good.
That's good.
Now beets are one of those vegetables that have a pretty hard surface. So what Madalyn suggested is that you throw a little bit of chopped cabbage in there to help the ferment get started, because cabbage is such a friendly ferment.
Yeah.
She's also thinking about trying green beans.
Oh yeah, we're gonna taste some green beans later from my garden that I just made pickles from. They're so good.
Is this?
And Lisa got back and said that she's doing carrots, cucumber, and garlic.
Okay. So I put some salt in. Then you need a little sweetie, whether it's maple syrup or honey. We don't use sugar for enough reasons. There's also cucumber has its own sweetness too, so you don't need too much. But it also just depends on your palate.
And so
How
this
you
is
like
this
them.
is a quick pickle,
This
not
is a
not
quick
a
pickle.
ferment.
This is not a ferment.
Oh,
This is
okay.
a quick pickle.
Sarah's asking regarding the beets. Does she need to add the cabbage? She doesn't really have any on hand, even if they're sliced up.
What do you suggest?
For
If
the
she has no cabbage,
What is she doing? Beets and
ginger
ginger,
and lemon zest.
lemon zest, and vinegar and salt.
No, salt.
Just salt.
They're fermented pickles.
I think you have to have you just make sure that you have your brine and that those beets are submerged. It should be okay. Just like what Maria recommended earlier about making sure that the vegetable is submerged. That's really important because the environment that the critical point is no oxygen in your pickling environment. In fact, the original word for kimchi was submerged vegetable. Like kimchi, the name kimchi came later. But the original word that was used to describe this dish was submerged vegetable.
Because that's the key. That's the key.
No
item.
oxygen.
Yeah, you really got to keep those under the water, under the brine. Now, I had a pickling disaster.
What?
Which is not a big deal because it's really not a disaster. But what happened was I had some pickles fermenting, and I went away on vacation for a week.
Okay.
And then I came back and I had all kinds of, some of the brine had evaporated away, so they weren't submerged. Some of them were submerged. There was all kinds of weird stuff growing on the surface. So I just freaked out. I put them in the compost.
Yeah.
Should I have tasted them? Or once they start growing like, weird stuff on top, that just means it's the end?
It depends on you. I mean, in our home kitchen, we just take off the top.
Mm-hmm.
And the bottom is going to be very sour. And so we tend to like a more fresher ferment.
Mm-hmm.
And so that underneath, we might make a soup with it.
I see.
It's
Okay,
still
so
very,
I really
it's still
should have
very
tried it.
edible there.
Mm-hmm.
It's whatever, the surface, it's always the top. that gets in where the oxygen gets in,
Yeah.
or where things can get in.
Yeah, that's where it
And
went
so
wrong.
this scenario here, where okay, you have your cabbage in there in the brine, and then when would you seal it? I'm curious to know in this process, like when you might seal it, because
I
eventually
would never seal it. I'd put it.
We seal it eventually.
I put it in the fridge with a loose lid.
we would eventually seal it.
Oh,
Not
okay.
funny.
And does it need to be sealed?
I mean, I don't want oxygen getting in.
I see. Okay.
And
Then-
while it is supposed to keep pushing out because there's action in there creating pressure, and so the air is going out, eventually we seal it so that nothing can come in. And in fact, we don't leave our ferments on the counter for very long. We maybe half a day just to get the action going, and then we put it in the cold refrigerator because it'll continue to ferment in the refrigerator, but very slowly.
Okay.
And so all the different, like us, we put the garlic, ginger, red pepper, scallion, the vegetable itself, all have a chance to be a part of the flavor profile.
I see.
If it's quickly fermenting on the counter, it's pretty much going to be sour. That's
Okay.
That's the
well, so
flavor.
we've
It's
got
sour.
we've got some of those. We've got some of those here to taste because that's the
Okay.
way I made them actually.
so. What did I put in here? I put in hot pepper.
You have not
Mid-
added any vinegar.
Didn't add any vinegar. Do we have any black pepper? You can put black
Yeah, I
pepper
do
in.
have black pepper.
You put
Do you want pepper, ground pepper?
Oh, that's good.
I haven't helped at all yet. I've just been talking and
No, you're
distracting you.
Little vinegar.
Yes,
Oh,
people are interested in everything that you're putting in there, so
Yeah, so this is an extra recipe. She's putting in vinegar. She put in hot pepper flakes, a little bit of syrup, local maple syrup. And what did you add this?
I didn't. That's if you want to. It's oil.
So this
It's
is
a perilla oil.
perilla oil. I remember Madalyn talked about perilla on her farm. It must be the Korean national herb.
Yeah.
And it's a similar plant to Japanese shiso. So now she's chopping up some garlic chives, which are flat compared to regular chives, which are a little round tube.
Right.
And so
This gets mixed in, and then we need garlic.
I'll get the garlic.
Where's that big bowl? I brought a nice big bowl. Oh yeah, there. You have some garlic.
Yeah, I got garlic. Wait, it's too small.
This is a bulb I brought from our farm. This is an XL. I'm totally bragging. Most of the
You
garlic
grew
was
that?
not this big.
Wow, that is awesome. That is massive.
So the garlic, however, you put in as much garlic as you like. I mean, I think this amount would take at least 2 cloves. And if you have ginger, you can add ginger. I also sometimes like to add cilantro or a little basil if you like that nice fresh herbs. This is a nice dish to make just to become familiar with all of the ingredients in making kimchi. Kimchi is can I squish this in? Yes, please. Kimchi takes time, and so I think people get nervous with making kimchi because it's the type of thing that you're going to make and then eat in a month or 2. And so I think there's a lot of pressure when you can't eat it right away and you're not sure if it's right. And so cucumber kimchi, a fresh cucumber kimchi, is a good way to just become familiar and comfortable with the ingredients.
Okay, there you go.
Thanks, Maria.
Mhm.
So then you could also add ginger to this too. And like I said, any fresh herbs you like, you can add that as well. You see, I'm not used to using a spoon. I just usually just use my hand.
Yeah, I love stir. You know, your hands are your best kitchen tool.
Yeah, I used to work in the school garden in my town, and I would always tell the kids, you know, our first tools are our eyes and our hands, right? Because they always want to run to the shed to grab every tool. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't forget, you have your eyes and your hands.
I had to taste it. It's really good.
It's good,
Oh,
right?
it's hot.
I know
Nice.
this chili is very spicy, and plus I brought a fresh chili. So fresh chilies tend to be very spicy.
That's nice.
So yeah, if you have if you like basil,
it's both juicy and refreshing and hot. It's really
yes.
awesome.
And imagine this with a hot bowl of rice. It's perfect. And if you need some protein, you fry an egg. It's very simple. Fry an egg, rice. Done.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's it. So simple.
Yeah.
And will you write that down for us so I can share it with everybody? Maybe I'll write it down and you can correct it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I did bring some recipes from other Korean cookbooks
let's see what time
for
it is.
cucumber kimchi because, like I said, my mom does a lot of measuring in this palm here. She pours in, and there's a lot of tasting as she's cooking and preparing foods. So, Marie is going to help with the recipe so that we have a recipe to follow.
Yeah. So the recipe for fermented pickles is on the Turning the Tables cookbook website. And I will probably do a quick pickle recipe also using vinegar at some point. But what I wanted to do was have a little tasting.
While you're setting that up, should the cucumber be eaten all at once, or can it be kept for leftovers? Like, can you eat that multiple times?
I think that, this cucumber salad is good for a few days, depending on how particular you are about crunch. You want crunch, you should eat it all within a day and a half. If you don't mind it getting soft, a little more sour, then up to a week. At least, but it won't last that long. You'll eat it all. It's so delicious. It's that type of a dish.
So I've got a variety of things here that I have pickled. I did these mostly just a few days ago, and also this is the what Madalyn and her mother make, kimchee harvest. Maybe this is the best way to show that label.
Thank you.
It's really good. Sells it at the Kingston Farmers Market, and you do another farmers market.
My mom's
right?
at Woodstock right now.
Woodstock Farmers Market, and they have a 24/7 kimchi stand.
Yeah.
So the pickles that we have here that I made previously are broad bean pickles. Now, this is another way to keep your pickles below the surface. This is a glass weight. And you order it depending on what size of mason jar you want to use. This is a wide mouth mason jar, so you can just plop this on, and you can see that these beans want to float.
Yeah.
And if you do that, it will press them down.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also see that there's a little bit of white film here, and this is yeast. It's not going to hurt anything.
No.
This one has a little bit of yeast too.
Mm-hmm.
So these I grew in my garden. And would you like to try one?
Yeah. Thank you.
Any thoughts on pickled fruits?
Pickled fruits, Madalyn. I've never pickled fruit.
I know there's like an immature plum that you can make into ferment.
Like ume plums.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fruit. We've made some quick kimchi's with them, just like the cucumber to eat within the week, which are fantastic. Like we've made peach kimchi with basil, so good.
Wow.
And I think people are getting into watermelon rind kimchi.
And you've made rhubarb kimchi.
Oh yeah, is that in the fruit family?
Well, rhubarb's one of those things. It's sort of eaten as a fruit,
Right.
but it's really a vegetable.
Mhm.
So these are a few days old,
These are delicious.
and I think they're ready for the fridge, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I pickled some shishito peppers.
Oh,
I haven't tried these yet. Here we go.
thank you.
Madalyn's brave.
It smells good.
Oh, they taste good.
Mmm.
That's nice.
Mm.
This
Just fresh.
just fresh shishitos. I cut them in half so that they would pickle more quickly, more surface area, and threw in some garlic, and that is it.
Mm.
I think these will be great on a sandwich.
Tasty.
Mhm.
Only vinegar?
No, it's salt.
Only salt brine?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Really good.
And then these, I let these. This is yellow and white cauliflower, and I let these ferment for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
and then I put them in the fridge. I made them maybe a month ago. There you go. So we got just a little cauliflower.
Mm. Is it oregano?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I put fresh oregano in there. And they're still nice and crunchy, but they're a little bit soft, not hard.
No, that's very good.
It's
The
not bad, right?
cauliflower really absorbed the flavor of the oregano.
Mm-hmm.
And the oregano was dry or fresh? When
Fresh.
You put it fresh. Mm.
And you know what's funny is this oregano that I'm growing this year doesn't have a lot of flavor, really.
It has a lot of flavor in here.
It does, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is Madalyn and her mother's
Cabbage?
It's Napa cabbage kimchi. And it's amazing.
Whoa. Yeah, well, there's the garlic and the ginger and the nanana in there.
I mean, you know, compared to these, this is just like
you
on
need rice.
steroids. Yeah. This is, but it's really, really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I have some other vegetables here that can that I wanted to show you that can also be pickled. I've got, these are the broad beans in their natural form. Zucchini, cut this up. This is a 8-ball zucchini. There's a stem blossom end again. You want to cut that out like you do with cucumbers. And here are some beautiful peppers. I mean, this is a great time of the year to go to the farmer's market because everything is just abounding. Here's some beets and some okra, which I'm looking forward to fermenting. And then for herbs, here I have some Korean perilla, gangya, some lovage, which I really like a lot. And let's see what else. A little bit of lemon verbena. Would you put that in a pickle, or do you think it's too much of a sweetie?
No. Oh, that would be fabulous with cucumbers.
Okay, I'm gonna try it. And then some celery leaves, which celery leaves make a really nice herb. They're very potent. Got the classic dill, a little bit of tarragon. You can use different spices, caraway, dill seed, star anise, cumin. All of these things taste really good in pickles. And you know, start out small and add more as you develop your taste of what you like in a pickle.
So for the woman that's making the beets, pickling her beets, are you leaving the skin on or are you peeling? It's always the question. Leave the skin on or peel? Do you tend to peel or leave your skin on?
Oh, I peel.
You peel.
Well, I've never made pickles with beets, actually. I want to try that. But I would peel. Why? You would not peel?
No.
Oh, interesting.
I mean,
You'd scrub.
Scrub, but the nutrition for most vegetables is in that skin.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, and like look at even a radish. Most of the nutrition in the radish is in the top, in the green. It's not in the root.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for maximum nutrition in your vegetables that you eat, you should try to leave the skin on.
Looks like people have done it both ways. Some keep their skins on and others peel them.
Yeah.
We do have a couple other questions here. Is it okay to put sweet refrigerator pickles in plastic containers instead of glass? They do have vinegar in them.
As long as it's food safe plastic, I think that's okay. But in general, I've really been trying to use glass containers more than plastic. What about you?
It depends on how long you plan on holding your food in the plastic. If it's something that you plan on holding for 6 months plus, I would strongly recommend glass.
Just because it's impervious and solid.
Yeah, and I don't think there's enough research about the action in your pickles. I mean, you've eaten pickles, you've tasted the brine. It's fairly potent. So,
It's a force.
yeah. So I'm not sure how plastic holds up. But just for a couple months, I think it's totally fine.
Mm-hmm. And using plastic isn't going to kill you right away. It's one of those things that builds up the way that nasty chemicals can build up. So just to be in general, I think.
Have you ever done anything with eggplant?
I tried pickling eggplant once and it didn't work out.
It didn't work.
But I on my recipe I have a caveat. Also, mushrooms I have never tried. I heard that they're difficult. Madalyn did try some chicken mushroom, and it didn't really work. It dissolved, which I'm really interested to find out the chemistry on that.
And pretty much everything we're looking at here, after it's done cooking, like we say it's cooking, fermenting, we put it in the fridge. Canning is a different thing. I mean, a lot of the kimchi that you see at the stores has been pasteurized slightly so that it's shelf stable, even if it's refrigerated, because kimchi it has a life of its own. If you've ever seen caps of kimchi, some of them say kaboom right on the top, because that is a possibility when you open it. It's a living environment, and so temperature fluctuation can excite the microbes, and it can explode. And so everything we've covered so far is to be refrigerated, right? That this is not a canning class,
right,
where you seal it and put it on the shelf, because we're into the live food. We're live food right here. So.
By the way, there are a lot of really neat dishes you can make with kimchi, like kimchi pancakes and kimchi avocado toast, and there's all kinds of really yummy things you can make. So just Google that, and you'll find a bunch of nice recipes and ideas for your own recipes.
Have you ever done the beet greens? Has any?
Yes.
Those lacto fermented?
The leaves of the beet green is a little slick too, so it's a type of thing that you have to keep an eye on. I mean, they'll all ferment as long as you're willing to check daily.
Yeah, don't go away on vacation like
no, you
I
can't.
did.
You can't just do it and take off.
Now, could I have put my ferments in the fridge while I went away and then come back and
yes, that would have been better.
Yeah,
because things would have slowly happened, and so you probably in a room temperature 70 degrees summertime, it's like everything's accelerated,
right,
good and bad.
Yeah,
so
70 degrees. It's been up in the 90s,
right?
So yeah, it's been really.
Can you just talk another minute? I'm sorry, about fermenter lids.
The lids.
Yeah.
Do you mean the weights or the lids, or both?
The question says fermenter lids.
I think
talking information about both would be great.
Those are helpful for helpful for people that don't want to be hands-on with their ferment, and those lids.
You're talking about the water, the airtight ones.
Yeah, they let the air out. Air out. Those can really help build confidence for a new fermenter, pickler.
I mean, one of the things to remember when you're making pickles is something that Madalyn mentioned in the videotape, which is, you kind of need to let go and let the process happen, and, don't be so controlling. The only thing you really can control is just keeping those vegetables below the surface of the brine. I can't say that enough, because that really is the key.
Yes. And salt. The quality of the salt is very important. At least in our house, it's very important. Maria, you have a nice sea salt here. We use sea salt. People like Himalayan salts, but don't think you're going to make a nice ferment with just any cheap salt. Because do some research on salt. There's many grades of salt, and so the low-grade salt is not great for you.
Now, I know we're over time. I just want to take a couple of minutes to share a few interesting books. Madalyn brought a few. Sandor Alex Katz is sort of one of the reigning gurus of pickling. This is his big book, The Art of Fermentation. I thought it was going to be, really a lot of research in science and history. A lot of it is comments and stuff that he's gathered in his days pickling, from other people who are pickling. So a lot of it's anecdotal, but it is helpful. Now, this is a big, thick book, and it's expensive. I got it on sale. This is his first book, Wild Fermentation, and it's really much more accessible and simple. So, it's just a very thin little booklet, and that's really great. This book was a gift. 1,000 Indian Pickles. This is just a wild ride, this book, and I love it. It's just full of amazing, crazy pickles. And Madalyn brought these books.
For anyone that doesn't want to use garlic, temple food, Korean temple food is.
And this one is a new book.
Yeah, this one is a new Korean American style. So he makes Korean food a little more accessible to Western palate, but holding on to traditional Korean flavors.
Eric Kim is the name of the author there. And this one.
I picked that one up at a farmer's market.
It's called Pickling Everything.
It's pretty good.
By Lita Meredith.
Yeah.
And so it's a guide to pickling all different kinds of things. It's full of very specific recipes. But, if you're reading Katz's books, they don't use recipes, they kind of use methods. And that's it's a whole different way of approaching it. It's more like your mother approaches it, I think, with, and with an attitude of experimentation.
Yeah.
And,
well, this was fun.
adventure.
I mean, I recommend people, if you're new to this, to work with someone.
Really?
You don't have to do it alone. Preparing all the vegetables takes time.
I think we're going to have to sign off now, but this has been really fun. And, if y'all are interested in it, we could start a little talk group about making pickles because, as Madalyn says, don't make pickles alone, make them with a friend.
Yes.
This woman processed 1,200 pounds of Napa last week. And it was Napa that she grew herself. It's amazing. You're my hero.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you for coming. This has been great. Thank you to the crew, Cassandra. And Carrie, thank you so much for helping out. You've been
Absolutely.
really helpful. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for being there.
Yeah, thank you all for coming.